You're listening to the podcast for all of the news, notes, and breakdowns for your Ohio State Buckeyes. This is Sons of the Shoe with Nick Wilson and Spencer German.
Sons of the Shoe is back, guys. Nick Wilson, Spencer German, and today we are talking about the Jeremiah Smith Show in East Lansing, Ohio State. 38-7, a big win over Michigan State. Not the prettiest win, but before we get into all the nits and grits here, guys, as always, as we're doing this live today, please make sure to comment along. Give us your thoughts on the game. We will do like it, love it, and leave it later in the show. Submit those throughout today's show as well. But we're a new podcast, so please make sure to follow Sons of the Shoe wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, really anywhere. And, anywhere you get your podcast, that is. And, of course, make sure to comment along on the 92.3 The Fan YouTube channel as well. We love hearing from you guys. Make sure to like those videos as well. So subscribe to 92.3 The Fan, comment and like on the videos. That was a pretty darn impressive performance by Jeremiah Smith today, Spence.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to have any overarching takeaway. I think from the positive side, other than that, I mean, dude is just absolutely remarkable. I think I tweeted it out after that drive where he had the two amazing one-handed catches. Like, it's amazing for a guy to make one-handed catch like in a career. I mean, think about like Odell Beckham Jr. in the NFL. Like, his entire career arc was built on just that one catch on Sunday Night Football where he caught it with like three fingers, and it was the most insane thing we've ever seen in the NFL. And not to say he didn't go on to have a solid career after that. I understand like injuries kind of derailed things late here in this career. But yeah, like he wins a Super Bowl, he does some nice things, still puts up some big numbers, and he still had some probably one-handed catches throughout his career. But even to just do that once can like define your career. Jeremiah Smith did it twice on the same drive, like 4 plays apart. I mean, that is insanity. Alien type stuff. I don't know what type of lab he was built in, but pretty damn remarkable to see what he did tonight, on top of what he's done, obviously, through the first just 4 games of his college career.
Yeah, early those first couple games, I think there was the comment of, well, it's Western Michigan, it's Marshall, and it's Akron. And I know, listen, you can tell Michigan State and Jonathan Smith's team is away from, ways away from being where they need to. Childs, you can see the talent pop off the tape.
Yeah, he's
just
a good player.
Watching him. But that being said, like, this was a really nice defense and kind of a physical performance by Michigan State, and they just had no answer. And by the way, Jeremiah was fantastic. As good as the first one-hand catch is, I thought Devin Brown threw the ball away on the one-handed touchdown catch. I thought he threw it too far out there. So then to see it, I mean, he caught it like some sort of golden gilded egg, and to watch him just catch that and just kind of nonchalantly, jaunted the end zone was probably, we always talk about indelible images, like the things that go on your way to winning, like the Heisman Award. If you're not a quarterback, you got to have indelible images. You've got to have big performance in Big Ten or in your conference play. And I know, again, I'm not trying to disrespect Michigan. It is Michigan, but that one-handed catch, both of the one-handed catches tonight, those are indelible images that are going to stick in people's mind when you have to vote later this season on who's the best college football player in America.
Yeah, that's well said. We talk about, I think another way to sort of phrase that or word it is like a Heisman moment, if you will. Like, you look for that sort of image of, team needs you to make a play and you step up. Now, granted, maybe in a game that ends up being lopsided like this, maybe it's not quite like this, like, remarkable feat where he's making the game-saving play. But I mean, still, like, in that spot, Will Howard gets the hit that knocks him out for a play or two, and your backup quarterback comes in and, like you said, throws the ball pretty far out there, and you still make an amazing play on it. I mean, that dude is something special. And it's telling. I mean, think about all the wide receiver talent that has come through Ohio State, especially recently, and worked alongside Brian Hartline. And they had that. I know Andrew Siciliano sort of shared on the broadcast early on that Brian Hartline talks about Jeremiah Smith in like pre-game meetings, calls him the best, like the most talented player he's ever coached. For somebody who has obviously produced some of the best NFL talents right now, like currently playing in the NFL at Ohio State at that position specifically, to come out and say that about you, and the guy he just sent to the NFL, by the way, is like the son of a Hall of Famer, but you're the guy that's the most talented he's ever coached. Like that goes a long way for me to hear when Brian Hartline's on the recruiting trail getting great recruits every single year. I mean, that's impressive, but the play speaks for itself. And yeah, to do it on a stage, first Big Ten game, tougher opponent, if you will. I think it shows that it wasn't just some fluke of, okay, this is just a true freshman who's getting a lot of snaps and a lot of chances against bad teams. Like, no, he's going to be able to carry this into tougher matchups down as the season continues.
Well, and it's I love when people bring up Marvin, because Marvin's one of the guys that I've watched in college that when he's playing against the best of the best still looks like he's playing in a different game. Like he's still, Marvin at points, it's like, all right, this is college football, and then Marvin's playing in Madden, and I felt that way about Terrell Pryor. There's been guys that I felt that way about. Mo Claret, even as a freshman, was kind of one of those guys where you're like, this is an 18-year-old dude looking better than pretty much all the 21 and 22-year-olds out there. With Jeremiah, it just continues to underscore how young he is, that he is a freshman, and to see a freshman walk in now, 4 games into his career and look like he's just in another game is asinine. Like, I know this stuff does happen. We've seen it happen at Ohio State before, but when you see it, it's just a reminder of that cut above the top tier of guys to be able to walk in and dominate college football like this. You just run out of superlatives.
Yeah, and that was another thing I tweeted during the game was, as I sort of sent out the preview for our show. I don't know if there's any other adjectives left to describe this guy. It's phenomenal. I mean, I understand, we sort of played the game of like, let's guess his stats for year one. And I think we both kind of lowballed it, but it was like, I don't know that we envisioned it being this spectacular, particularly just 4 games in to his collegiate career. I was trying to pull up here while you were talking as well, because I know I've kind of been tracking from that tweet from a couple weeks ago, Jeremiah Smith's numbers against other true freshman wide receivers and where he's at, like their entire seasons. And so after tonight, he's up to 14 receptions. Does that make sense? Yeah, 14 receptions. They actually have this already added in. 281 yards, and he's up to 4 touchdowns, 5, I guess, technically touchdowns if you want to count the rushing one as well. Obviously, I think the initial post from this was only looking at like receiving touchdowns, but those figures put him, he still has 5 guys in front of him in receptions. He now only has 4 guys in front of him in terms of yards, and in terms of touchdowns, he's tied for 3rd with Garrett Wilson. So just 2 guys, and Chris Carter and David Boston, who, as we know, Nick, are still 2 of like the top record holders at Ohio State at that position. And he's already on the brink of like surpassing those guys' freshman season numbers. I guess not. I shouldn't say on the brink of passing their numbers 4 games in, because he's still got a ways to go yards wise to catch like Ted Ginn, Garrett Wilson, David Boston, and Chris Carter. But touchdown wise, like he's already on the precipice of like just eclipsing those numbers and beyond in his freshman season. It's crazy.
By the way, those numbers that you read off, those were his numbers coming into this game. So
okay.
Add another 100 yards, add another 2 tuts, and add another 7 touches.
Yeah, for some reason, ESPN stats, it says that the Michigan State game is factored in on here, but apparently it hasn't actually added it. So yeah,
dude, but think about it. I mean, we're talking 380 yards, 6 touchdowns, 21 to 23 touches in 4 games, because that's like inevitably the Heisman becomes, and Matt Thomas, good friend of the show, of yours and my both, threw in the comment here, Jeremiah Smith, future Heisman winner. The question is, I think how soon. Like, because here's the thing,
Could
like
it be this year?
Well, and like it feels ridiculous 4 games into anyone's career to be able to say, could it be this year? But like I think it's a legitimate question. If we're talking almost 400 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 20 plus touches in 4 games, and it does seem like you've got a couple vintage games, within the next 6 weeks that can even kind of grow that legend, and we're already getting these one-handed catches. Like, and I agree with Radu, who's also commented here. Still don't think he wins the Heisman this year. I still think it's a long shot, but man, I got to tell you, like he's already blown past every marker that I had for him as a freshman, and now, like again, like I'll continue to say this: when Emeka Ibuka, who's going to be a first round pick this next year, when he's on the field and Jeremiah Smith looks like he's in a different gear, that's all you need to know. And it's not just that. It's with Travion. It's with Quinshon. Watching those guys run side by side, Jeremiah's in another level there. And as we kind of welcome people in here and talking about this game, what's so funny about this game is this game was never really in doubt. I mean, I know it went, 3-0 at the end of the first, but Ohio State was right about to score their first touchdown. And it just felt like every time Michigan State got close to doing anything, there was some sort of oopsie, some sort of mistake, some sort of penalty that brought it back. And still, Ohio State played really, really sloppy early in this game. They had a second turnover by Travion that was called back because his forearm was down. Felt a little lucky, even though it was the right call. This was not necessarily the best first probably 20 minutes of football from Ohio State, and it still was never in doubt, and they get the comfortable 38-7 win.
Yeah, and I'll say this on the Jeremiah Smith thing. I understand where Radu's coming from, where it's like it doesn't seem like he has a chance to win it this year. And you kind of survey college football, but like I'll tell you, Carson Beck basically nuked his Heisman chances tonight. Jalen Milroe is going to be in that conversation, of course, after this win. Quinn Ewers is interesting because he's now missed a couple games, and you're going to have like the Arch Manning highlights to look back on as like and I understand like Travis Hunter, in my opinion, probably should be the front runner right now. I think Cam Ward is obviously up there, but if Miami stumbles at some point, we'll see about that. And the other thing with Colorado is Colorado, I think, is probably going to be in a bowl game this year, but are they going to win? Are they going to win out? Are they going to be like that type of team? Or are they going to kind of finish around 500 here? So his chances could kind of fade a little bit as well. So I don't know. We'll have to see what that looks like moving forward. But I think like if it all comes down to when Jeremiah Smith does this. Like if he has a ridiculous game against Oregon, if he has a ridiculous game against Michigan, there's no reason to think he can't at least be in the conversation by the end of the season. But yes, it would be very difficult for a true freshman to win. Now, along the lines of this game, I listen, we're going to highlight a bunch of different things here. I think there was obviously some good things. Jeremiah Smith, most notably. There were some bad things, and there were some things that I think I'm starting to realize about the identity of this team on both sides of the ball that maybe are a little bit concerning. But yeah, and on the surface, like this was a game. Here's what I was saying, Nick, because I did the preview show obviously without you. And there was a couple things that I kind of said, like we keep talking about these games being like, what are you looking for? What do you want to see as they take each step of the season? And some of the things that I wanted to see, I think we saw. We saw this pass rush do a nice job tonight. They were really getting some pressure. And had several sacks. We also saw the defense create some turnovers, which was something that I said going in. Aiden Childs, I think, has a chance to be a pretty good player at this level. He's 19 years old. He's a young kid, but he also is very turnover prone. And so to force him into a couple of mistakes, I thought was good for this defense as well, because I do feel like that's something that has tended in recent years to elude the Buckeyes, is that they just haven't been a great turnover creating team.
So it's interesting you mentioned the kind of pressure that they got. They got a lot of pressure as the game went on there. But yeah, I mean, I agree about Childs. And honestly, I think you can kind of see, even though it's only 4 or 5 games in for Jonathan Smith, I think you can kind of see the physicality they're going for. You can see where I think that defense is going. One other thing I want to shout out was the speed by that kid Glover, who took an angle that I thought he had a bad angle, and he ended up ripping off a huge play. And so you can kind of see where Michigan State's going on this. I just think for Ohio State, I continue to look at this and go, truly impressed by the pass pro tonight. Not entirely impressed with the run side of things.
Agreed.
Which is wild because, coming off the Marshall game, I'd kind of said flip that. I didn't think the running game had nearly enough holes, and I think that's a great job by Michigan State to kind of keep gap discipline.
Yeah, and that was another thing I talked about in the previous show, Nick, was this front seven for Michigan State. First of all, they had like 9 guys that transferred in, or 9 new guys, whether it was transfers or freshman recruits that came in within inside the front seven that were all kind of rotational players on this team. And I mentioned that like those guys were going to be pretty disciplined. It was going to be a tougher area of the defense to crack. And I think we saw some of that tonight with the way that they played the run. We know the offensive line is going to have questions. It's interesting that like 1 week to the next now, you get 1 week where they look really good in pass pro and 1 week where they look better in terms of like a run defense. Granted, opponent obviously has something to do with that as well. I do think though, like that continues to be a concern. I also think too, like flip it, go to the defensive side. I think at times Ohio State seems to struggle, or they've seemed to struggle in the early going here, these first 4 games at times with making plays against opponents that run the ball well, and teams have had some success running the ball, I think, against them. I don't know how much of that has to do with the fact that like when you look at their defensive front, it's a lot of guys that you feel like can rush the passer, but it's not necessarily a lot of guys that you feel like are like space eaters clogging up lanes. And I do think when you get these more physical offensive lines that want to run, they're pushing those guys back a little bit, and it's creating some holes to run in. Now, all due respect, because like Caleb Downs, I thought played great tonight. He was flying up, making a ton of plays in the backfield, near the backfield, tackling guys when they were trying to get to the second level, and he would kind of shut that down before they did. So, it helps that you have a safety net like that back there. But I do think there's some issues in the way that they play the run. I think their linebackers, Sonny Styles is a good player. I just think like at times these guys look slow to react to things. And that is something, I guess tonight my big takeaways were how the offensive line blocked in running the football and how the defensive line / front seven handled the opposing rushing attack.
Yeah, it's funny. If you look by the end of the game, you can go, wow, Jim Knowles is a hell of a defensive coordinator and a hell of a caller of defense. And yet, and again, I know some of this is slow starts. That's, that can be on players, but it's not just the players. Like you can kind of tell, like they once they gain their footing, they're as good as anybody, but you wonder if those slow starts, I think Radu pointed that out as well. You wonder if that's going to pop you in the wrong game. Obviously, you got a game in 2 weeks that could be. You got a game with Penn State that could be. You got the Michigan game. I don't know that Jim. So I know that statistically last year Ohio State had a great defense, right? Yeah. I think this defense should be even better this year. I still don't know what the Jim Knowles defense is like. I don't know what their calling card is. And I'm not, this is not like,
I think it's supposed to be the secondary, right? Like they're calling themselves best in America and all that. Like,
well, no, I mean like that. I mean like
you're saying like his defense in general, like identity wise, like what?
Yeah. And I think, you mentioned the slow thing. I do wonder whether the players are being asked to compute a lot. And I just asked that, and I'm just saying that because of that delayed reaction that I think you see kind of across the board. If there's a lot of read and react instead of a lot of just attack, which is maybe I'm spoiled by the Jim Schwartz defense, but I do like when players can just play free.
I think that, you mentioned thinking too much, and that's where my head goes too, is to like what we hear all the time from the Browns with Jim Schwartz. He's become this mastermind at the NFL level of simplifying things for his players. so that they can just react. And yeah, I don't know that I have the intuition or the knowledge on how, Jim Schwartz. It's probably something to ask some of the people who are, super close to the team, that cover the team every day, like how he teaches, how he coaches defense, what his, calling card is, the things that he's trying to kind of implement. And if it is more like thought provoking where they have to think more. But I think you're right. Like, it seems like the best defenses, and especially at that level, because think about it, like these guys, I understand some of them are like seniors who have been playing for a long time and been in Jim Schwartz's system, or sorry, not Jim Schwartz, been in Jim Knowles' system now for 2 to 3 years. But like at the same time, they're younger players who are still sort of developing in their own right. So if you almost want your players to be able to read and react, especially at the college level, even more. So yeah, that's a fascinating question. But I think you're right. Like there's just for the third straight year, it just feels like, yeah, Jim Knowles, I believe he's a good defensive coordinator. I do. It just feels like there's something not quite there yet. And maybe it comes out in those bigger games. Again, Oregon's looming in 2 weeks. But yeah, I think we still need to see a little bit of something before we're like convinced that this group is like national championship caliber.
Do you feel like you get to take a victory lap on Will Howard?
It's funny you say that. I tweeted at you early in the game because I thought that drive, the second drive where they scored the touchdown to G. Scott. I understand he had the bad throw in the end zone. That was bad. But I thought that drive, because he was able to get some good pass protection up front, I thought you saw a guy who was like reading levels of the defense and then making the right throws. And so I tweeted something out about like, so this is what it looks like to have a quarterback that can read the defense. Because as we know, Kyle McCord last year was very much looking at Marvin Harrison Jr., and that was like his read. And if it wasn't open, that was it. Like it was pretty much toast for him. So it felt like he was kind of doing that. And then that ensuing drive, he throws the terrible pass into double coverage, which is just inexcusable. That felt very much that I will say there was a moment after that interception where I was like, Will Howard got a little Kyle McCord in him. Just a little bit of Kyle McCord in him with that
because
throw.
he threw an interception?
Because he threw it into double coverage for no reason. I was like, what are you doing? But no.
All right. By the way, if that was Kyle McCord, he would have thrown into triple coverage 4 times. I'm not bitter about it, but because everybody gets accused if you crap on Kyle McCord,
Yeah.
you get no. I'm actually just annoyed at how people think like, oh man, he's a different quarterback. No, he's going to be the same guy, and
yeah, he is.
They played really well against shitty pro. It's okay. Like it's okay. He's going to be fine. Okay. No, I mean I thought Will played pretty well today. I thought that play right there was a case of him just forcing it. I don't even think it was the one that almost was really bad was in the end zone where he just missed the linebacker kind of backfilling.
Yeah, that was
the linebacker.
That was what I mentioned. The one where I was right before he threw the touchdown to G. Scott, and he threw that one in the end zone. It was like, uh-oh. And then he recovered by throwing the touchdown pass on 4th down, which was good. But no, so the point I was trying to make, though, was I quote tweeted this guy who was in my mentions after I sent out the tweet about having a quarterback that can read defenses, and he was like, he sucks, bro. And I tagged you in it because I was like, man, Nick Howard thinks that I'm getting all my names wrong today. Nick,
doing a great job.
I was like, Nick thinks that I am harsh on Will Howard. This is what this person had to say. So I don't know. I thought
no,
that
you
was
landed
funny.
the plane. You landed the plane. I'm very proud of you.
So it seems like there was people being extra harsh on Will tonight. I don't think. I mean, obviously this wasn't his best game. What I think my takeaway from tonight with Will was, Nick, is it feels like still he hasn't had to like be the guy making those big plays. And listen, maybe he gets through the season and he doesn't have to like be like this gunslinger quarterback and do it because he has the talent around him to do it. It almost feels like I'm waiting to see like one more thing from him. And there's moments where he really is like seeing all levels, making some good throws over the middle of the field. That's something I didn't trust Kyle McCord to do last year. And that's good. So I kind of walk away from a night like tonight, like, you know what, maybe I'm focusing on the wrong thing with Will Howard. And it's not about him becoming some like superstar quarterback. And it's just about him making the plays he has to make in the scheme that Chip Kelly's asking him to run, which is very quarterback friendly. And he just has enough talent around him that it's like Jeremiah Smith's going to be expected to make that big play, or Emeka Ibuka is going to be expected to make that big play, or Quinshon Judkins or Travion Henderson, and he can just keep throwing the ball to those guys, and they're going to sort of lift him up, and then he's not going to have to be like the airing it out for 400 yards, like doing what Arch Manning is doing essentially. So that was kind of, I guess, my takeaway from tonight with Will Howard.
All right, guys, it is time for Like It, Love It, and Leave It. Give us the thing you liked from tonight's game, the thing you love from tonight's game, and the thing you will leave from tonight's game. Let's start with Leave It. I'm going to
starting with Leave It. Okay.
Yeah, you know why? Because I'm going to leave the broadcast crew. I'm going to leave
Dude,
Andrew Siciliano.
You always steal my answers, Nick.
I'm gonna leave Siciliano out of this. Colt McCoy was so putrid. And I found myself acting like, what the hell are you mumbling about, you baboon? Like, will you get to a freaking point? And I thought it was a little better in the second half. I don't know if anybody heard that, or if maybe I just tuned him out more than anything. But good God, that was a rough watch, a rough listen with Colt McCoy. Just jabber. And here's the thing, he didn't really even jabber, because he was just like, it was like Ricky Bobby. Car ran real good. Like, I don't know what to do with my hands. Like, Jesus, you can't find somebody better than Colt freaking McCoy.
Oh man.
Sorry, I blacked out.
There was some Tiger got out of the cage. There was some irony in Andrew Siciliano, the new Browns play-by-play man, calling a game with a former Browns quarterback. I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, Colt McCoy's bad. I'll do you one better though. I'm leaving, like, other than Andrew Siciliano, he can stay. But aside from Andrew Siciliano, I'm leaving like all Peacock broadcast. Like, it wasn't just Colt. The camera angles were weird. The whoever was directing this game, it was like they were cutting to weird shots at weird times.
If you watched the Notre Dame Louisville game right before that, it was the same thing.
Yeah, like who
awful announcing. Oh my God,
who set up their run a show? Like, I mean, come on, man. Like, Amazon's like Amazon started as a company where you order things online and they get shipped to your house, and they have better production quality when they started dabbling in TV than Peacock, which is run by NBC. Like, what is happening here? I don't understand. So yeah, I hope that Ohio State, I know there's supposed to be like 15 games this year total on Peacock in the Big Ten, I think it was. I hope that this is the last one Ohio State plays on Peacock this year. I really do.
Just no Colt McCoy. All right, let's go to Like It. I went first last time. Now it's your turn.
I'm gonna go with the defensive line playing at a level that you would expect for a senior-laden and experienced defensive line. We all had high expectations for this group coming in, and to see them in the passing game generate some pressure, get a bunch of sacks, and sort of make life difficult for a quarterback. I thought that was refreshing, because I keep going back to previous years. Like, a lot of these guys were here last year, part of this group last year, with maybe the exception of like Mike Hall Jr. being the other guy that was part of it. You'd play these games against inferior opponents, other Big Ten teams that you should beat, and that wasn't the case. Like, there was not a consistent pressure from these guys. So to see that tonight was encouraging, and I hope it's a sign of things to come.
So you can't tell it from the final book, because the late in game numbers, once they took out the starters and put in the backups, this drove this down a little bit. They were fantastic early on third down, and I loved what they did on fourth down. I just thought they were super aggressive. I thought they were confident. Yeah. Again, it was not the cleanest game in the world, but I loved the aggressiveness we saw. That one time where Ryan Day was going to send out the kicking unit, and then you could tell he changed his mind. Like, no, keep him out there. So, and I really do like Will Howard in those situations. He seems to have a really good nerve that, I mean, he had a couple kind of underneath throws in a few of those spots, and chose to throw beyond the sticks to ensure he got the first down. In one of those throws, looked like it was a bang play. He just snuck it into a little pocket. So I love the third down play, love the fourth down aggressiveness, and I really thought Will's touch on third down was really impressive.
Yeah, before we go on to love it, I do think on the Will Howard part that you bring up there, like that is the thing. One of the biggest reasons they got Will Howard was because they felt like he was going to be more composed in those types of situations. And that is something I give him a lot of credit for.
Does Kyle McCord look like a bitch? Sorry, I don't know.
It's late. It's fine. No, like he definitely looks poised in some of those tighter spots, third downs, fourth downs. He doesn't look like it's too big for him. And I trust him in those moments more. Like last year, I felt real tense in those moments with McCord. This year, I don't feel that way with Will Howard. I also will say this on the like it front. Using Will Howard as a runner was an encouraging thing as well. Like they clearly made a point in utilizing him in that way in this game. That is an extra weapon for this Buckeyes offense if they can get him doing that more often as the season rolls on. Games like Oregon, games like Michigan, etc. So I like that about Will Howard's game tonight too.
Finally, it's love it, and there is no other submission than Jeremiah Smith's performance. 2 tutties, 102 yards, I believe, off the top of my head. And it's more than that. I mean, he was just a play waiting to happen. And watching this kid is such a joy. I hate for him that he has to stay in college football 2 more years.
Yeah, can they make an exception for him, just for him? The Jeremiah Smith exception.
I mean, it really is. It really is tough. But I'm going to watch, and I can't wait to see if there are levels above where he is right now. I mean, holy crap, dude! Just if it gets better than this, I think when it's all said and done, he could end up being the most dominant Ohio State player. You notice I said player of all time. We always talk about, well, can he win a Heisman, right? If this guy wins a Heisman this year, we might have to start talking about, can he be the first guy to win 2 Heismans since Arch? And I don't think it's going to happen, but we got to throw out our preconceived notions if this kid's going to continue to do what he's doing over the next 6, 7, 8 games, what he's done the first 4 games. Just holy crap performance.
Yeah, I do feel bad that he has to stay in college for all these years, at least 3 before he gets a chance to go to the NFL. But I also am excited about the idea of him playing with potentially playing with a Julian Sayin or an Aaron Noland or one of these other quarterbacks that obviously the Buckeyes have kind of waiting in the wings. So that'll be fun to watch beyond just this year. I'll say this real quick, Nick. I think the Jeremiah Smith answer has to be the answer for Lovett, but I'll throw in another one here for you, just the turnovers, because that was the thing that I went into this game saying, I want to see them do that. I want to see them get some more. They had 3 tonight. I'm encouraged by that, and that is something that we know, when you're trying to win in the margins, that those types of plays matter for getting momentum back in some of these bigger games. So a step in the right direction on that front for the defense, and I hope it's a sign of thing to come. By the way, Georgia making a comeback on Bama right now.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have the score up, but 33-28.
I'm not really sure who I want to win. Can they just tie?
My God. Georgia's
taking the lead.
They're about to take the lead. They just took the lead. Yeah. Oh my God. As we speak. That is insane.
Welcome to Alabama, Kalen DeBoer.
Welcome back to the Heisman conversation, Carson Beck.
Yeah, he'll throw it away. Don't worry. He's got plenty of time to throw it away. All right, guys, follow the show wherever you get your podcast. Apple, Spotify. Have I mentioned Apple? 92.3 The Fan, the free Odyssey app. Please follow Sons of the Shoe wherever you get us. And, of course, comment on our 92.3 The Fan YouTube page. Hit the subscription button, then like and comment on our videos. We love hearing from you guys. Up next for Ohio State, it is Iowa, the last test before the Oregon game on the 12th. So we got a lot of football ahead of us, and that'll be a 3:30 kick as well. So we'll see what Ohio State does to top this. You'll have the midweek edition of the show as well. We'll start to look at the Iowa game. We'll also get into some of the other storylines, depending on what Coach Day and his staff start to say to begin this week. But we'll see you there, guys. Spencer, go Bucks.
Appreciate you guys jumping in with us for this late night edition, guys. And yeah, we'll talk to you next week. Go Bucks.